so much that I want this space to be a safe place. Space among friends. When Joe and I met and he told me that story, I said, I need to bring a box of tissues. I didn't bring the tissues, but I can use one right now. How many of us have that? Whether it's a mother, brother, sister, child, husband, someone that we love, and for some reason, we just can't hear each other. In this safe space, we heard you. And I'm willing to believe that some of us will make that call. Some of us will write that letter. Some of us will act on our compassion. Thank you for being so open and so willing to share that with us. Our last storyteller is my really good friend, Harriet Davis. Harriet is a storyteller.
Yes.
And all the qualities that we've talked about are the qualities that Harriet, and I see the nods of people that know Harriet. If there's ever anything she can do for you, she will. So please welcome Harriet Davis, lending a helping hand in and out of season.
Lend a helping hand in and out of season came from the title, Pass It On. That was the original title. And then it was changed to Lend a Helping Hand. And then it was changed to In and Out of Season. So by the time I finish with it, it may have another title. Okay, it starts with no matter how good times are, or even if times aren't so good, it matters not. What matters is the fact that you take the time to be a blessing on your journey to someone else. Now, I learned this during one of the hard seasons of my life. We all go through different seasons. There are easy seasons like spring and fall. And then there are seasons of difficulty like a harsh, cold winter or a hot, blistering summer. We go through these seasons with no relief from the weather. Well, one of my seasons of hardship happened when my husband and I lost his son, Arthur III. My husband was Arthur Jr. and his son was Arthur III. We lost his son at 21 years of age. Now, when we lost him, we had no savings. We had no money. We had nothing to fall back on. Now, we made good money. We made very good money. But the problem with that was, if we saw something we wanted, we bought it. If we wanted to go somewhere, we went. We didn't think about tomorrow, next week, or next month. We lived only for the time being, but we lived well. Now, when his son died, I realized we had brought his son from Louisiana 3 years earlier, seeking a better life, for him to go to school and for him to work. And he would have a better opportunity in Los Angeles than southern Louisiana. He was a very loving boy. He just came right into my home. He captured my heart. he captured, that's why he was brought there. But like I said, when he was killed, we had nothing. And no one knew we were in trouble. No one knew we were falling by the wayside. So what I did the only thing I could do. I walked, and I prayed, and I asked God to help us. God, we need you. We need your help. We have no idea how we're going to bury this boy, how we're going to get him home. I cried. I really did, because I didn't know what to do. But you know, God heard, and God answered. He came forth. He sent people. He sent co-workers, neighbors, friends, family, church members. He sent people to our rescue. And they came. They came with envelopes, and they came with checks. Now, they didn't know we were in trouble. They had no idea, but they came. My mother and my father asked a strange question. They wanted to know if it would be okay if whatever casket we picked out, we would allow them to pay for it. Even my parents knew we were in trouble. I had a girlfriend who came to me, and she told me that she had just gotten a new credit card. She said, it's a Continental Airline credit card. She says, I don't intend to go anywhere. I don't even know why I got it. She said, but I want you to do me a favor, you and Arthur. I want you guys to use my card to go home on, and then tell me how it works. That's what she said. When people found out where we had Arthur's body, they went by the funeral home, and they paid on the bill, not even knowing we had a bill. They left money. We had friends here in Georgia, a friend of my aunt. She and my aunt they said that during a time like this, your phone bill this was before cell phones, your phone bill is going to be astronomical. So what they did, they sent enough money to the phone company to pay my phone bill for 5 months. People came out of the woodwork. They came and they helped. Now, one of the people who helped was a church member of mine. I was in the choir with him. His wife was an usher. And they were neighbors. They lived 3 blocks away. Well, about 8 months after Arthur died, Arthur III died, they lost their son in exactly the same manner, a carjacking. They lost their son just like we did because of a stupid piece of metal and tin. Someone wanted our car bad enough to kill this 21-year-old boy. Now, they came to our rescue, and since our son had died, we had begun to put money aside. We still didn't have a lot, but we had learned the lesson. And we had begun to put money aside, but money wasn't what they needed. They had family coming from out of town for their son's funeral, but they had an empty room. I can't remember if it was a bedroom or a den. What they needed was sleeping quarters. We had learned the lesson. People came to our rescue, so we went to theirs. With their help, I had a 9-year-old daughter with a French provincial canopy bed. They helped us take that bed apart, put it on their truck, take it to their house, and put it back together so that they had extra sleeping quarters. We did what we could. And from that time on, I taught my children to be aware of the needs of other people. Pass on your blessings. Do something for someone else without expecting anything in return. Years later, I moved to Georgia. And after losing my husband here, I was working at Central State. And I worked with a young man called Greg. Greg worked in my department under me. Now Greg shared a vehicle with his wife. And during one of the times she had the vehicle, he needed to go from the building we worked in, Med-Surg, to the Powell building. And anyone who knows anything about Central State knows it's a huge place. Walking was not an option. So I had a new SUV. By new, I mean it was less than a year old. And what I did was I went and got my keys. I gave him my keys. And he just looked at me. He said, I can use your car? And I remembered Arthur III. I said, yes, it's nothing but steel and metal. It's just something to get you from point A to point B. Transportation, no more. I don't idolize this vehicle. He took my SUV and he went across campus. But he was gone so long, I couldn't figure out why he was gone so long. And I began to worry. Then I thought, there's no need to worry, because going to the Powell building is like going to Walmart. You're going to run into friends, co-workers, people you went to school with, and you got to stop and talk to each and every one of them. So I figured that's what Greg is doing. He's stopping to talk. I didn't worry anymore. When he came back, he gave me my keys and he thanked me for using the vehicle. I told him no problem. We went back to work. At the end of the day, when his wife came to pick him up, he told me, thank you again. And he left. Well, about 20, 30 minutes later, when I got ready to leave and I walked outside, I realized I couldn't find my vehicle. Now, we had an upstairs parking and we had a downstairs parking. I looked over the rail and I didn't see it downstairs. Upstairs, I did see a vehicle that was identical to mine, same color. But that couldn't have been mine. And as I kept looking across the parking lot, I realized the tag on that car was exactly the same as mine. What had happened was I had an 8-year-old grandson who had written on the back of my vehicle, "Granny, please wash me." Well, while Greg was going across campus, he took my vehicle and he washed it. And then when I opened the door to get in, there were no more McDonald's papers, no newspapers, no soda cans, no drink bottles. Greg had cleaned and vacuumed my car. He washed it. Now see, what I would do is I would sprinkle dishwashing liquid on it. When it would rain, it would wash it off. So that's what I was going to do when it rained again. But Greg washed my car. He cleaned it up. And as I thank God for him. But as I put my key in the engine and turned the engine and it went all the way to full. You see, this was Friday. My vehicle only had a fourth of a tank. And that fourth of a tank had to get me to Tuesday. Greg washed my car, he vacuumed my car, and he filled it up with gas. And I thank God for him. That was Friday evening. On Sunday, I went to church. And after church, I had a meeting. There was a young man there when we left. He was 15, 16. He was standing on the corner. And as I went to pass him, I said to myself, I can't leave this young man here. I let my window down and I said, "Sweetie, are you okay?" He said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "I'm waiting for my mother. She was supposed to pick me up a half an hour ago." He said, "I've called her on her phone, but she's not answering." So I told him, I thought about it. And I figured, I had the use of both arms and legs. I said, I can handle him. So I told him to come on. I would give him a ride home. And he said, "No, ma'am, I live too far." I said, "It's okay." He said, "But ma'am, I live way out Lake Laurel Road." I said, "It's okay." I said, "Come on." And as he was buckling his seatbelt, I told him the story of how I was able to give him a ride home. I told him my co-worker Greg had borrowed my vehicle, and out of the kindness of his heart, out of goodness of his heart, he had filled my car up. I said, you see how clean it is? I said, my car is clean. And I said, don't it smell good? He had even put one of those things that the smell gooders. He had hung one of those in my car. So it was smelling good too. And he looked around. He said, yes, ma'am. I said, listen, all I'm asking you to do is when you get a chance, when the opportunity arises, I said, take the opportunity to be a blessing to someone else. Help someone else during your walk through life. He said, yes, ma'am. I said, do just as Greg did me. And he said, what is Greg's last name? And I thought, well, it couldn't hurt to tell him. I said, Greg Barnes. Greg Barnes, I worked with him. He started smiling, he started grinning. I said, what's so funny? He said, Greg is my uncle. Yes. He said, he's my father's brother. And I thought, because of Greg's blessing to me, I was able to bless this complete stranger, his nephew. I couldn't wait to tell Greg on Monday morning. But I taught my kids the same lesson. And when I told my son, that's my son in the back, when I told Jacoby the story of Greg and what Greg had done, he said, I got one for you, Mama. I said, what's that? He said, now, you guys must realize, I'm always telling Jacoby to slow down. He drives too fast, always. Even when I'm in there with him, you know, I'm putting on brakes. So he said he was coming down Highway 18, and he passed a car sitting by the side of the road. And as he passed it, he realized there was a lady in it. So he backed up. He was going so fast, I know he was a blunt tool. He backed up. But then I guess about 30 feet of her, where when he got out of his vehicle, she could see that there was nothing in his hands, nothing on him. And he walked back to her car and he asked her, do you need any help? And she said, I have a flat tire. He said, do you have a spare? She said, yes. He said, pop the trunk. And when she popped the trunk, she went to open the door. He pushed the door back closed and told her, no, don't get out. He changed the tire, and as he changed it, he noticed her tag was from Baldwin County. He changed the tire, he put the old tire in the car, he closed the trunk, and he told her that I'm from Baldwin County also. He said, I'm going to follow you in. And he followed her. When they got into Baldwin County, they blew as they went their separate ways. As she turned off to go and he turned off to go. And that was the last of it. He thought that was the end of it. He had passed some of the blessings on that he had been given. He stopped to help a stranger. Sometime later, he had to go to court. To this day, I don't know what Jacoby did. What he said was he was guilty. He knew he was going to have to pay some money. He knew big money was coming out of his pocket. But when his turn came up, and he was listened to, and he told his side of the story, the person in charge dismissed the charges, all charges. And he was really surprised, and she saw the surprise on his face. So she told him, I'll talk to you when court is over with. He stayed, and when it was over with, she said, I dismiss your case because anyone who would stop to help a stranger in the night without accepting anything, he wouldn't accept anything from her. Who would stop to help someone in trouble can't be all bad. But they deserve a second chance. And I'm giving you this second chance. She says, I'm the lady you stopped to help. Wow. My son had stopped and given a hand to Maxine Blackwell. But what had happened when he backed up and was so far from her, before he had finished changing her tire, she knew who he was, where he lived, where he worked. She had made the call. She knew exactly who he was. So when he stepped in front of her and she saw the name in her court, she knew exactly who this young man was. You know, when you stop to help someone, and I mean, we can always help someone. That person in line in front of you at the cashier who seems to be fumbling for change, reach in your pocket with all that extra heavy change you're carrying or in that pocketbook and give it to them. Give it to the person who's waiting on them. When you see that child who seems to be in trouble all the time, stop and talk to them. Stop and give them words of encouragement. When you see someone needing food, or when you see a family who seems to be in need, a young mother with 4 children, you go to their aid. Christmas is coming. She can't do it all alone. Do something for someone without expecting anything in return. My lesson, and I have it written down, the lesson to be learned is when you give unselfishly, expecting nothing in return, your rewards are magnified 10 times more over. Kind of like tithing. What you give will be returned to you 10 times forward when you least expect it. Like with Jacoby and Miss Blackwell. When you least expect it, it will come back to you. So, help out when you can, even a stranger, even that family member you can't stand. Help out and spread God's love. Always spread God's love by passing on the blessings.
Amen.
All good things must come to an end. What a wonderful time. What beautiful, beautiful stories. What always amazes me is that with very minimum amount of coordination on my part, our stories spoke so beautifully about who we are as people. Van asked the question, where is the compassion? And we have the answer. It is with us. It is with us. So I want to end with a really short story. I'm from a large family. Now it would be a humongous family. There are 9 of us. And I am number 7. I have a brother and a sister younger than I am. My sister and I are exactly 3.5 years apart. So when she was graduating high school, I was graduating from college. We also came from a family with very little money. And so to afford her graduation and my graduation was really going to be a stretch for our family. Well, I decided that Georgia was not good enough. The colleges in Georgia were just not good enough for me. So I decided I was going to a little Catholic school in Indiana. Rensselaer, Indiana. It took me a whole year just to learn to spell the name. Very few black people in the college. Of 1,200 students, there was maybe 40 or 50 black students and no African Americans in the town. In addition to graduating, I also decided that I want to get married. So I graduated one day and got married the next day. And my brother that lived in Cincinnati drove from Cincinnati to bring my mother to the graduation. Again, Rensselaer is a really small town. You really don't see that many black people driving around. I'm Baptist. He was Episcopalian, and we got married in a Lutheran church. Anyway, my brother's driving around, and finally the police stop him and say, where are you going? He says, I'm going to my sister's wedding. He didn't really have to say any more. He could take him right to the church. We were getting married. But my sister was a generous person. I mean, her middle name should be generosity. Her middle name should be compassion. So she decided that she really wanted the family to attend my graduation and my wedding. So she decided that she would forego all of her senior activities. So there were no pictures, there's no ring, and when I think about how we started with Yvonne saying, what is Christmas all about? It's all about the family. It's all about the people that we love. And while none of our stories, most of our stories weren't about December 25th, they were about everything that Christmas is. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for listening. Let's give our great storytellers a hand. Thanks to WRGC, who will be rebroadcasting these stories later, so listen for them. Thanks to Allied Arts for this wonderful space that we're able to share. We want this to be a monthly event. We want it to be safe space. Space where you can come and you can share your stories. And we can recognize that we make the difference. And when I know your story, when I know who you are, when you share that heartfelt, authentic story with me, I see you. I understand for you. And now I will not have empathy for you. What I will have is compassion. So to all of you, and the spirit of the holiday, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.